some wrestling, the jokester shows up. He even got his own little championship belt. I brought out the Hulkamania t-shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, we got RD Reynolds from WrestlingCrap.com. RD, how you doing?
I am amazingly blessed. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Listen, me and you was just chatting. I was showing off my little prized possession.
Hold it up. Show the people.
Yeah, you gotta tell these moms.
Look at that.
Right here. Look at that. Hulk Hogan himself signed it.
That's right.
And I said, damn it, I want to talk some wrestling tonight. I brought out the Hulkamania t-shirt. I said, here we go. So let's do it. Let's go ahead and get started. RD Reynolds. Now, you just didn't just write the death of WCW. You also wrote Wrestling Crap and the Wrestling Crap Book of Lists. I take it that you was always a fan of professional wrestling.
I wasn't always a fan of professional wrestling. I started to be a fan probably my late teens, and just started to. I remember watching a buddy of mine. We were going to play video games or something. This would have been mid '80s. And I said, "Why don't you come over and we'll play some video games tonight?" And he goes, "No, can't do it." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I'm watching wrestling." And I was like, "Wrestling? What? Yeah. What is that? How on earth? How can you give up playing Mario Brothers or whatever? You're going to watch wrestling instead." And he goes, "No, I'm watching wrestling." And I was like, well, I probably better turn this on, see if it's something that's interesting. And I saw a primetime wrestling, and I saw a British Bulldogs match that was awesome because Dynamite Kid, Davey Boy Smith were my favorites. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. This is kind of neat. And then I watched a few more weeks, and Bobby the Brain Heenan showed up, and I've been hooked ever since. Heenan was my favorite.
Well, I started a little earlier. I probably at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I started as a small kid. See, my dad was a big wrestling fan, and so growing up, I've always one of my earliest memories is me sitting on my dad's lap in the chair and we're watching wrestling. And then all of a sudden, this man by the name of Hulk Hogan came along, and I was like, who the hell is that guy? I'm watching him every second I can. If I got to rent a movie, I'm renting WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 5, WrestleMania 3, and it just went off ever since. But here's a difference of philosophy that I think is kind of interesting talking to somebody like you. I had a friend. He recently passed away. He was a good guy. I have another friend. Us three in high school, we were like, well, my friend Chad was the wrestling dork, I guess you want to call it. He was the guy that was like everything is wrestling. Stefan was also like that, but Stefan had other interests, and I was kind of like that, but I had other interests. But Chad would read all the dirt sheets and everything. As for me, I'm the type of guy, I want to watch a fight. I'm watching wrestling like it's a sport. But Chad would knew everything from, he would read Steve Beverly, the Columbus, Georgia journalist.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, he would read Wrestling Observer. He knew everything before the match ended. And so I guess my question is, as a wrestling fan, why do wrestling fans today want to know everything about everything in professional wrestling? It doesn't take away from the magnitude or the illusion of being real?
I think it's because the information is out there now. And that's true with other fandoms too, because everybody will want to read, okay, what's going to happen in the next, Marvel movie? What's going to happen on, in the next Star Wars movie? People want to know, so what they do is they go out and find out that information. The thing about, I think it's so intriguing about the wrestling business is because it's always had a curtain. It's always had a air of mystery about it. And so everybody wants to know, okay, what exactly is going on? What exactly is happening? What's the real story? Do these guys really not get along? What is going on? And I think that's a large part of it. People just want to know more. And I think that speaks to how interesting professional wrestling can be, is that you're not content with just watching on a Monday night or a Wednesday night or a Friday night or whatever other night. You want to find out, okay, what's really going on? Where is this leading to? Is this going to be something I'm interested about? And I think a lot of it now, um, a lot of it is people just want to find new things to complain about. And so if you can get more information and you can feel like, oh man, I really liked, Ricochet, guy on Monday Night Raw. I really like Ricochet, but he's not getting any wins. They're not doing anything with him. What's the story there? People want to get, I think, outraged by things. It's just kind of something that's happened recently in recent years, where people want to see, okay, why is my guy not getting pushed? Actually, I shouldn't even say that, because whenever I was like that too. I watched Bret Hart from when he was, early WWF days. Early, I'm talking, almost pre-Hart Foundation. So you're
Cowboy
talking,
Bret Hart.
I never saw him as Cowboy Bret Hart, but I saw him in a lot of matches, before he and Neidhart really teamed up. And I was like, this guy is so awesome. Why are they not doing anything with him? Even when he was in the Hart Foundation, I was like, why are they not doing anything with him? I was like, got to do something with Bret. Got to do something with Bret. Got to do something with Bret. They gave him the Intercontinental title, and I'll never forget watching one Saturday morning. All of a sudden, he just shows up with the world title. And I was like, finally, somebody listen to me.
I remember that too, because it showed up on Superstars. I was at my dad's house, and that came on Sunday mornings here in Alabama. Mm-hmm. And my dad was trying to teach me a lesson, like, because Bret Hart gave this interview. He was like, "Dreams do come true if you work hard." And I understand what my dad was trying to do.
Yep.
Not at the time. Like now, looking back, he knew that I like wrestling. He was trying to like teach me a lesson, like, you work hard, you stay dedicated, you don't quit. You you can reach the mountaintop. But I was so intrigued, like, I can't believe Bret Hart just beat Ric Flair. So my dad has a temper. So when you're not listening and you're not getting what he's trying to say, we had a WrestleMania moment, put it that way. Well, you gonna listen? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. But talking about Chad, when I talk wrestling, because he passed away, and me and him used to get in so many fights about professional wrestling, because I was the guy that I love wrestling for wrestling. I'm not like fans today. Like, if I want to talk wrestling, I want to talk, wrestling. I want to talk what's going on in the ring. I want to talk about. I don't care about workers. Who's the great worker? I don't care about kayfabe. They start using the. I guess the words are smart fans. They want to talk about stuff that they really don't know anything about. They just watch a shoot interview on YouTube, or hey, I'm guilty of it too. I like to watch some interviews about stuff going on behind the scenes. I don't pretend like I know what's going on behind the scenes. I watch it. I'm a fan. So I guess they call it a mark. I'm a mark. You're not you, but because actually you.
No, absolutely.
Well, you was inside the business. You was a former professional wrestling manager on the independents. You also
on the indie scenes, and I don't view it. I view everybody that has ever watched wrestling and has a passion for wrestling, and I mean this. We're all marks. Everybody's a mark. Even guys in WWE now. They were all fans. They were all marks. A lot of people get really offended by that term. And to me, it's a completely outdated term. But I mean, we're all fans. We're all fans. That's why we follow That's why we follow wrestling. That's why we watch on Monday nights, Wednesday night, Friday night, whatever. That's why we watch, because we're fans. Otherwise, we would just say, okay, I'm going to find something better to do.
I don't think I ever met anybody who got offended by being called a name. Matter of fact, the same guy that I was talking about. All due respect to Chad, he's no longer with us. But he used to call me a mark, and I was like, "Okay, David." That was my comeback. I call him, "Okay, Jake," whatever.
Yeah.
But that was just us. We were bicker up, like, from freshman in high school all the way to the day he died. We were bicker about professional wrestling, because he cared more about what WWE or what shoot interviews with feeding him about professional wrestling. As for me, I would care more what I was watching. I care about what wrestling is portrayed to be, not what it actually is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
You enjoy it on a. You don't want to be weighed down by any behind the scenes stuff. You just want, okay, what's on the screen? Give me something good. That's all I care about.
Right now, yeah, but don't get me wrong. It pisses me off every single day now when I go back and watch old matches, and it's a bloodbath, and then all of a sudden I see a guy do this. Yeah. I'm like, I know too much.
Yeah.
Too much information.
Yep.
It really upsets me because, I mean, you can go back and you go on the WWE Network right now and you can watch like any old match. And then all of a sudden I saw this one match with Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik. And I think it was like the best of Hulk Hogan from 84, 85.
Right. Probably Coliseum video. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was they cut the scene, but before they cut the scene, the Iron Sheik was underneath, or Don Morocco was somebody. I forgot. He was underneath the table, and you could tell he was like doing this. And I was like, I know too much. I know too much. Yeah. It's not as fun as no one. Like I was watching Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels in Hell in a Cell, and you can see him. And this is what pisses me off about knowing too much. And he's getting flipped into the cage by the Undertaker. And as soon as he's getting flipped in the cage, in midair, you see Shawn, he's getting, they used to grab you by the legs and like slingshot you.
Sure.
You can see while he's getting slingshotted, he's literally getting slingshot. You can see him go. I never saw it live. Just now that I know what they do, is like, now I can see it every single time. I hate it. It's just, I'm glad at least trying to like actually give you a concussion when they try to bust you open now.
And I think that is also something you have to think about is whenever they did these matches, and they did, they had the videotapes and everything else, but they were never, as a product of its time where they're not planning on people watching over and over and over in minute detail in 1080p, or in 4K or 8K or whatever we're up to now, right? It was never designed that way. In fact, in the old days before you and I started watching, a lot of times the reason that you don't find a lot of wrestling from like the 60s and the 70s, it's really rare compared to how many hours of wrestling they had, is those stations would record the videos. They would have them on videotapes, and back then videotapes were like gold. They would just record right back over them because no one thought, you know what? In 40 years, people are really going to be watching this stuff and analyzing it and seeing it, looking at it frame by frame and seeing, okay, look, that's where he gigged. No one thought that. No one thought that. No one.
Yeah. But and plus, it's kind of hard watching today's wrestling, and then all of a sudden, you, like me, who just love watching wrestling, I'll go turn on Amazon Prime and I'm watching a match from that. I'm watching Gorgeous George.
Yep.
And I'm watching somebody's winning by a drop kick. I have Vern Gardner, that was his finishing move, was a drop kick.
Sure. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Right now the Stone Cold Stunner is just a move now that everybody does.
Transition move. Yeah, everybody does it, and it's times change, people change, and it's gotten to the point now that it is kind of weird to see, they don't even call it a stunner, they call it a cutter now. Where that is, it's just a move in the middle of a match, and you're like, that used to really be something. DDTs were the same way. When Jake showed up,
I was hoping you was gonna say nothing. Because how can you bang your head down in the freaking ground, in the cement ground, or the wrestling ring, and you can still continue? I was like, that is not the move that you can just go on into the match. That should be it. Like, done.
Exactly.
And that's why I like the NWA wrestling on YouTube. I'm a little behind, but, they bring back a little bit of that old-fashioned wrestling, stuff that I used to hate when I was a kid, because I wanted to watch this man right here. I didn't care, Me and my dad used to argue, I guess I hope I can't get him in no trouble, but he used to have one of those big satellite dishes
Sure.
where you got the, well, you know what I mean? You used to get
I know
the
what you're
free.
talking about.
Okay, you do, yeah. So, but they will play pay-per-views like at the same time, NWA pay-per-view and the like Survivor Series and Starcade. And I remember in '87, I remember getting mad at my dad, like, "Will you please turn it on the WWF?" But he wouldn't do it. He was like, "We got to finish watching this. If I miss Hogan, I'm gonna be very upset." So
when I was during the Monday Night Wars, Raw and Nitro, I would always go over to my buddy's house. And I know where you're coming from because I would sit there and watch, and it wasn't so much I wanted to see WWF over WCW, but I would sit there and he had the remote because it was his house, right? So he had the remote, he had the control. But I would always go, switch, and just tell him you need to change channels. It would drive him crazy, but I would just do it. Switch.
What I would do is I would have, like, I was definitely watching WCW during the Monday Night Wars because I was a Hogan guy. But I also wanted to keep up with Bret Hart. But in '96, there was no Bret Hart.
Right.
So, and I don't care who you are. There was nobody watching WWF in 1996. It sucked. I don't care. You may not share my opinion, but it sucked. I didn't care about Shawn Michaels. I mean, I cared about The Undertaker just a little bit at the time. I'll probably switch on and off for him. The Ultimate Warrior came back. I was like, I want to see what he's doing. Other than that, I was watching WCW because, I had to see. They had all the stars.
Right.
And we're going to transition into WCW in a minute. But I've always been the type of guy that I want to see the big names. I want to see, give me Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan over Kenny Omega and some Japanese wrestler that's going to give you a 5-star match. I don't care. Right. I want to see the names. That's just me. I know a lot of people are different. Yeah. What's his name? Dave Messer. I know he's a little different. I'll probably one day try to get him on the show. But I just like the big names. And I didn't understand WCW, and which this is what we want to talk about is the death of WCW. That's the main book. But I just didn't understand, and I'm just gonna say this, and we'll go back to what we was talking about. I didn't understand why they wanted to give the belt to Jeff Jarrett. Even though in TNA, I was a big Jeff Jarrett fan. Don't get me wrong. I love Jeff Jarrett in TNA. But at the time at WCW, you had Goldberg, you had Sting, you had Kevin Nash, you had Hogan, you had, did I say Sting?
Sting. You can say him twice. It's worth it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you had all these great wrestlers. You had Bret Hart. Bret Hart was out by the concussion by this time. You had all these great wrestlers, these big names, but you're giving the belt to Booker T and Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner. Why? And then not only that, they were switching over. I stopped watching at this point, but I would look back and it was like the belt would change hands every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this trade. I mean, anything you got to say about that? Because I got to check. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about, and I only got so much time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with WCW is you had so many people, and I know we don't like to talk behind the scenes, but I mean, we're going to have to here. There were so many people that were going so many different directions there that it made it impossible. And you could see when you were watching their television. I mean, it was funny because whenever we started writing the book, Brian, my co-author, Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly, he said to me, he goes, RD, we're going to get really depressed writing this book. And I was like, no, we're not going to get depressed writing. What are you talking about? I remember those horrible thunders and the stuff in 2000 when WCW was just a laughing stock. That's all I was thinking about because I'm the WrestleCrap guy. I write comedy. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get depressed at all. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't wait to go back and watch this stuff, write about it, make fun of it. And I started watching the early Nitros, 95, 96, 97. I got so depressed because those shows were so great.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say. I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go back to 95. 95 Nitros.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, let's get off this because I want to know one more thing before we get back on WCW. I want to know about the choke slam from hell from the Big Show in OVW. I read this and I was like,
oh boy, I have to talk quietly because my wife hears this. The only thing she and I have ever really fought about is, okay, so Big Show was in OVW, and they were running a show here in Indiana. It was pretty close to my house. And I had done some other shows with different Indianapolis, places in Indiana. Hope, Indiana's down the road a little bit. I don't know, 45 minutes or something. And I had done all these shows for fundraisers in Hope, Indiana. And so R.D. Reynolds, for whatever it was worth, was a name because I was the manager, I was the mouthpiece, I was the big mouth. I would go run my mouth, talk about how terrible Hope, Indiana was, how much it sucked, how the people all smelled like they just walked out of a urinal and everything else, and just made fun of them. And so at the end of the night, of course, I'd get embarrassed. I'd have to, get a pie thrown in my face, or have to shine somebody's shoes or whatever. All old school stuff. So OVW comes to town, and they wanted to do a show there. And they said, we'll absolutely do the show, but R.D. Reynolds has to be there. And they're like, R.D. Reynolds? Who on earth is that? Because nobody knew who I was. And my wrestling career was nothing. It was nothing. And they said, yeah, we want him to be there. We're going to put him in the main event. And Mark Henry and the Big Show were in OVW at the time. And they were basically doing, I think, injury rehab or something. So they were trying to get back in shape so they go back up to the main roster. It was really weird, too, because in hindsight, I was sharing a locker room with Dave Bautista. Like, the guy was literally sitting right next to me. And you're talking, this was 20-some years ago. And now I always look, anytime I watch Guardians of the Galaxy, I always elbow my son and go, I was in the locker room with him, R.D. Reynolds, Dave Bautista, Drax. And I always get to laugh about that. But so they had me out there. I went up behind the Big Show, and Mark Henry loses the match. I trip him wrong or something stupid. I go up and I hit the Big Show with the sissiest forearm like this. And he turns around and he's going to choke slam me. And I did not know how to take a choke slam. Had never taken a choke slam. And
well, you're going to learn today.
I learned then, and he took me up and he muscled me up. I mean, I'm 6'5", so I mean, it was I was 6'5", I was probably about 280 at the time. So Show doing that, I was really impressed. So I went up, I went down. I didn't know how to take the bump. I landed on my hip, and I thought for sure I'd broken my hip. He choke slammed me. I landed on my hip. Ow! Because I didn't know what I was doing. And I went to my wife, and I was like, I'm in a lot of pain. I think I may have broken my hip. I don't know. We may have to go to the hospital. And my wife, who is the most loving person I've ever met, looked me right in the eye, and she goes, good, you got what you deserved. Because I had told her going down that night, she goes, now you're not going to do anything stupid tonight, are you? And I said, no, I'm not going to do anything stupid. And so to this day, she's still, anytime she sees the Big Show on anything, she gets angry, and then she growls at him, and then she looks over at me and growls at me too. So that's the story of the Big Show. After that, I'm never going to go anywhere as a performer in this business. I'm better off just writing, and I was doing wrestle crap at the time and led to the books. So I won that way.
Well, lesson learned. Do not
Absolutely
elf with a 7-foot-something giant.
Absolutely.
No, and don't try to hit him either. Especially if you're going to hit like a girl.
Especially not like a sissy like I did.
Yeah. So let's get to it. Okay. I want to tell everybody how we met. Me and you, I saw you on Facebook. I remember you as a book I read when I was a correction officer. I befriended you. I hope I'm not giving people advice on how to stalk you.
No, that's okay.
So I messaged you. I said, look, I got this YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. And, you kind of, I guess it was like, okay, yeah, sure, kid. But later on, you finally was like, okay, let's talk.
Sure.
So I remember the death of WCW because I actually read the book, and the one thing I picked up on was one, how much you trash Hulk Hogan. Two, two, how much money they lost in 2000, $60 million. I hope I'm not spoiling the book for anybody. You should. It came out in 2004. You should have read it already.
WCW went out of business. We should have called it the mystery of WCW instead of the death.
Yeah. So 60. Those are the two things that stuck out to me. But we started talking about the glory years. Now, even some of the stuff that people kind of laugh about now or kind of tarnish a little bit, it's stuff that I used to enjoy. I enjoyed the Battle Bowls. I enjoyed the Bill Watts era. I enjoyed the wrestling. Like, even as a kid, even though I wanted to see Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior, I remember watching those 30, 40-minute matches with Dr. Death Steve Williams and what was the guy's name? His partner. He was part of the Fabulous Freebirds, the big guy.
Terry Gordy.
Yeah, Dr. Death Steve Reardon and Dr. Death Steve Williams and Terry Gordy versus the Steiner brothers. And, Les Luger with the belt. Him and Ron Simmons on Halloween Havoc '91. I mean, these were some good matches. This is some good wrestling. But today, people tarnish it like, Battle Bowl. But you bought the pay-per-view, didn't you? I mean,
the problem is not enough people did.
I love the Battle Bowls. I look back at them even as today. I look at it like, that is so cool. Like, because I guess it's still the kid that remembers it. But just like anything, you watch stuff as a kid and you're like, oh, that was so cool. But then you turn into an adult and then you turn it on and then all of a sudden,
the rose-colored glasses kind of go away. So
yeah, '92 was kind of like, I was like, okay,
yeah,
I see why people was bitching about this.
Yeah,
but with that said, what was WCW's problem back then in the early '90s? What was the number one problem if you had to pick it?
I think they were trying to be something that they weren't. They were trying to be, WWF light. And I think the problem is anytime that you go in and say, okay, I'm going to be like this other company that's way more successful than me. If you try and go in and copy them, I think that always leads to problems because everybody's going to look at it and go, okay, why would I watch this inferior version? And I'm not saying WCW was, because in a lot of ways WCW was superior to what WWF was at the time. But a lot of times you look at it and go, okay, why would I want to watch the inferior version of this when I can just flip the channel and go watch the superior version of it? I think WCW in a lot of ways had and they kind of had this all throughout their existence with a brief exception. They were never quite sure what they wanted to be. They never had their own identity, with the exception, of course, when they had, the NWO. When the early days of the NWO, I mean, you couldn't beat it. I mean, it was dead on. It was really, really good. It was really interesting. It was really different. I mean, I give Bischoff all the credit in the world for that, and we did that in the book too. When we said, this was completely different. They broke themselves out of the pack. They showed, hey, we're not like WWF. This is completely different. Even though, I guess ironically, people thought that WWF was invading with the NWO. But just the look of the NWO, the way they came out and the way they did things, I mean, it was completely different, especially actually even before the NWO. The early days of Nitro, I mean, you watch those Raws from like 94, and it's just squash matches, and it's nothing all that exciting. It was taped like 3-4 weeks at a time. And then, Bischoff comes on, Nitro comes on, and it's completely different. It's live. You had surprises. You had big matches. It wasn't, okay, I'm going to watch, Undertaker take on Reno Riggins or something. I mean, you're getting, Hogan versus Sting. You're getting Hogan versus Luger. You're getting these big matches that you would never, ever see. And people were like, whoa, this is amazing. I get to see all this stuff for free on Monday nights? That's incredible. And then he would give away the match results on the taped shows. He forced wrestling to be reinvented. And, Bischoff and I, we have an interesting relationship, I guess I'll say. But, I mean, the one thing I will always give him credit for is he forced a business that was in dire need of being reinvented to reinvent itself. That was something he was able to do that the people before him, Bill Watts and Kip Fry and all the people before him weren't able to do.
Well, and see, the thing, I kind of disagree because, like, in 1991, I don't disagree totally hard. I disagree with the fact of the time. See, to me, back in 1991, 92, 93, they was less like WWL. But what was the biggest turnoff for me in WCW back in 2000 and 99, that's when, to me, they was trying to be so much like the W. If the referee changed the referee stripes, WCW changed the referee stripes.
Right.
If the ring ropes turned red just like Raw. Thunder had blue. All of a sudden, Thunder looked like SmackDown. It seems like every little thing that WWF did, WCW tried to copy it to the T, and that kind of got annoying. So to me, they had more of an identity back in 91, 92 than they did in 99 and 2000 and 2001. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I guess if you go at it from that angle, I mean, the problem is it wasn't something that people really wanted to see. I mean, wrestling was pretty cold in 92, 93 anyway, just as a business.
Yeah,
and I think it really hurt WCW as well.
I mean, I remember because, after the Yokozuna beat Hogan in 93, that shows you how much of a fan people think I'm like when it comes to sports. Like, my mom, before she passed, she was like, if you just focus your mind on reading and you can tell me how he won every Super Bowl. And it's true because when you was a kid, you remember this stuff and it sticks in your mind. But after Hogan lost to Yokozuna, it was no more, to me, it was like, where am I going to go watch wrestling now? It's no Hogan. It's like, who am I going to watch? And then you had to learn to watch other people. Like, right. You know what I mean? Because I mean,
and they tried so hard to make Luger the new Hogan, and that people just weren't buying it. No,
because Les Luger, that's the thing. It's like studying Steve Austin and Stone Cold. I mean, Stone Cold first came out, which I would say 96 and 97 probably was his best work, hands down. But at the time, I missed it because I was like, oh,
right,
studying Steve Austin is gonna be, he's a Stone Cold.
Yeah.
But I totally missed it, and of course, I was watching WCW because that's when all the NWO stuff. I called everyone, so I remember the time he went to Pillman's house, and I was switching channels like, what the hell is going on here? Yeah. But my mind wasn't like it was shocking television. My mind was like, all right, this is starting to get way too fake.
Right.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that era was it was a sense of realism. Like people like me who did not read the dirt sheets, and the people like me who did not knew, like, to me, March 2001 was a big surprise to me. I did not know it was coming, but 20 years later, I learned that everybody in the wrestling community knew it was coming. I didn't. When I saw Vince McMahon on TNT, I was like,
yeah.
But you knew, everybody else knew that reads the dirt sheets, but you got fans like me who don't pay attention to that stuff.
Right.
But back to WCW. So Eric Bischoff takes over the company. He turns everything around, and then all of a sudden, one day, rumor has it that he gives Hulk Hogan a call, And at 94, here comes Bash at the Beach, Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
How do you think Hulk Hogan did change the WCW around to what it became? In your opinion, did he have a big part in it?
Of course he did. Absolutely he did. He gave it notoriety. He gave it name. He gave WCW name value, which it didn't have. WCW was always kind of a tarnished brand, but then people saw, well, Hulk Hogan's there. This can't be some, this can't be like some fly-by-night operation if Hulk Hogan's there. I think you have to look at it. Hogan did it. He did two major things that helped WCW. One is just showing up. And people were like, oh, okay, Hulk Hogan's there. Well, this must be something I need to pay attention to. A lot of people felt that way. There was a little bit of a lull where, the WCW fan base was not in love with Hogan. I mean, they just weren't. They didn't want him around anymore. They thought back to the glory days, and you have a divided fan base, Some people were like this. But there were a lot of people that were like, okay, I don't want Hulk Hogan here anymore. And they started to resent him. And then Bischoff got him to turn heel, become a bad guy. And that got everyone talking. That was so huge. That was so major that he was able to turn Hulk Hogan into a bad guy. Excuse me. I mean, it was just incredible. And everyone was talking about it. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Hulk is a bad guy. This is crazy. That was huge. The NWO was huge. It led to, it enabled Bischoff to really put the pedal to the metal and really get an incredible run. The problem is with Bischoff and with WCW is they had one card to play. Hulk Hogan heel, NWO. And they never knew what the finale to that story was. They never knew what the next chapter was. They never knew what the next thing that they needed to do was. They didn't have a follow-up. And in any type of story, you can write a great first chapter, and that was an incredible first chapter. And, but after a while, people were like, okay, well, what else do you have to show? What's next? What's the next big Hulk Hogan turning heel? What's the next big NWO? What else? I mean, you obviously came up with this. This was incredible. We want to see what else you have in your bag of tricks.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it was the same Hulk Hogan that we grew up loving and to me, a lot of people talk about the smart fans again, the people that I really didn't relate to, said Hulk Hogan was a good worker. But if you look back at his Japan days, like you can go on YouTube right now and watch when he was in WWL, you see some wrestling from Hulk Hogan. Like, he was like taking out legs, wrist holds and everything, stuff that Luke Danson Hogan could never do. Can't say he couldn't do this, but he was doing it in Japan. And it seemed like in Japan, WCW, he kind of maybe, I hate to say this because I'm a big Hogan fan. I'm very loyal to the man. But it kind of like he kind of just like, hey, let's just take it easy. Okay.
Well, I think, if you even watch his whenever he first won the WWF title, he was going 1,000 miles an hour. You watch like early Saturday night's main event, and he is booking. He is not lax at all. I think what eventually happened is he understood this is what the fans want to see. They want to see, they want to see the Hulk up. They want to see the big finger, the shaking of the head, punch, 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 leg, boot to the face, leg drop. That's what they want to see. They want to see that, and then they want to see the posing. So he was essentially, you can say he wasn't a good worker. And in the past, I may have said that as well, but I've kind of grown with some appreciation for what he has done, because is he a good worker in the sense of, is he going to put on a a 5-star Tokyo Dome match. Well, no, but he's a good worker and he knows how to get people interested. He knows how to get fans invested. He knows how to get people wanting to see his matches. To me, that's the definition of a great worker.
Yeah. I mean, like I told you before, I choose Hogan. If I want to watch wrestling, it's only, I got, there's The Rock, there's Hogan, there's Sting, there's Dusty Rhodes, there's the Macho Man. To me, this is the guys I want to see. Bret Hart. I'm a big Bret Hart fan.
Huge Bret. Love Bret.
Yeah, but it's funny because WWE, it seems like they force feed Shawn Michaels on everybody. Like, he's the greatest wrestler of all. Did you watch the top 25, top 50 wrestlers, and Hulk Hogan was number 25? When he I was sitting there like, what the? This much, I to 25. I put the disc out, and I was like, I ain't watch this crap.
I don't know who put together that list, but
and Shawn Michaels is number 1, and I was like, get the fuck out of here. Excuse my language.
As long as Triple H was in the top 2, that's the important thing, I'm sure. To the
I guess so. But we're definitely running out of time here, so I got 2 more questions. One,
sure.
The end of '99, it seemed like WCW was coming back. They started making big matches I wanted to see. They started. Hogan came back in the red and yellow. Actually, late '99, I think, in my opinion, some people may in your book you disagree with this. Late '99, Flair and Hogan. Hogan started getting a little steam back. No Limit Soldiers in June, and Great American Bash. They started picking up stuff that at least I wanted to see. And then Hogan comes back, puts the red and yellow back on, and they start, you look at spring, what was it, Sturgis?
Road Wild?
Road Wild '99. Every single match was a main event match. You had Bret Hart versus Sting. You had I think it was Ced versus, I forgot. Anyway, I mean, you had so many main event matches. And the main event was Hogan and Kevin Nash, but the Macho Man versus Dennis Rodman. I mean, to me, from '99, they started going a little up, and then all of a sudden, after Halloween Havoc, it just went like this, and then it was just nothing but bullshit.
There's some timing there. Whenever a good friend of mine came into the company, and that would be my friend Vince Russo. So
I got him on. I've been trying to get him on the show too, but I'm a little afraid because we will argue. Because
here's the thing: I've had Russo on WrestleCrap Radio. I think 2 or 3 times. I know at least twice. I'll never forget the first time I had him on. I told my co-host Blake Braxton, I said, "Whatever you do, don't ask him a single question about wrestling. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. We'll talk with him about anything else he wants to talk about. We can talk with him about anything. But we're not going to talk pro wrestling with him because it's kind of like arguing the death penalty. I'm not going to say anything to him that's going to change his mind about wrestling. He's not going to say anything to me that's going to make me change my mind about professional wrestling. So we just talked for an hour and 15 minutes about breakfast cereals, the 1966 Batman TV show, everything else. And it was funny because we got done and he's like, "You guys didn't ask me any wrestling questions." I was like, "No." It's like, that was a lot of fun. And so like now, Russo and I, it'll sound so strange because, I wrote Death of WCW. But I mean, Russo and I, we get along just fine because we understand what you like about professional wrestling, what I like about professional wrestling. They're 2 different things, and that's okay. You can have differing opinions.
I don't have nothing against the guy. I mean, I think I've seen some interviews, and he don't take criticism too well. There's interviews where
he takes it very personally.
Yeah, it's interviews where okay, Mr. Russo, when you did this, you was behind the scenes, you did this, and you wrote this, and it was kind of stupid. And then he'll go, bro, it's fake. It's fake, bro. Bro, it's fake. It's not real. And then I'm like, motherfucker, so it's a movie, but it has to make sense. I mean, come on.
I can't believe I come on shows now. I'm gonna have to message Russo later tonight. I'm
serious. I heard him say that. I was like, I mean, come on. A TV show is fake too, but it's gotta make some sense. I mean, where's why would you create something that says creative control, the powers to be? Goldberg going on an interview saying, hey, in the script, I'm supposed to be doing this, and you putting this on the TV show. Why would you do this?
He does it. This is my take. I'm not trying to speak for Russo himself. Trust me, he can speak fine for himself, bro. I think he writes television that he thinks that is interesting to him. Like he writes for himself, and that is fine if everyone is viewing things exactly the same way you do. But the WCW audience wasn't viewing things the same way he did. Again, I have no issues with Russo. A lot of people do. A lot of people, he's had death threats and everything else ridiculous.
Well, but can I say this? I don't have no issues with. I don't know the man.
Right.
I just know what I watch. And, right. I was a big TNA fan.
Sure.
And he was. I think he was. He had a lot to do with TNA. And I love every minute he was in TNA. I loved it. I love Christian Cage. I love Jeff Jarrett. I love Sting. But it baffles me when I hear him in an interview and he says, and they say, look, this was freaking stupid. Bro, it's fake. It's fake, bro. I'm like,
well, a lot of times he may say that, but that's really, he always has some kind of logic behind whatever he has written. It's a logic that only I think he understands.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's what I've learned over these last 25 years. Whatever. I started Wrestle Crap in 2000. So 20 years I've been writing, wrestling. I've done 3 books with podcasts. I've done the Starcast stuff, with Bischoff and Kevin Sullivan and all them. And it was the one thing I've learned is everybody expects something a little different out of wrestling. Everybody wants something a little bit different. And that includes the people that write it. So that includes Vince McMahon, that includes Vince Russo, that includes Bischoff, that includes anybody else who has ever written a wrestling show or, helped to script something. Everybody wants something a little different. The problem is trying to find, okay, what is something that is kind of universal? Where is something that everybody's like, oh my gosh. So you look at like Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania in the 80s. Huge. That was something everybody could latch onto. NWO, everybody could latch onto it. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. That was all stuff that people could latch onto. The problem is trying to do that where you get enough people to latch on that it really makes a difference. And if everybody could do it, everybody would do it. It's really, really difficult. So people like Russo, Bischoff, Vince McMahon, a lot of times I sit there and go, man, you guys are putting on really, really bad television. But they're just trying to do the best they can, excuse me, under the gun, knowing every Monday night, every Wednesday night, every Friday night, they have to put out product.
Well, there's one, we're definitely running over time. There's one thing, I got one more question for you, but
sure.
in this, if Vince Russo would just understand, and I don't know if he did back then, or I don't know if he's still in professional wrestling or not. I did reach out to him to be on the show. Maybe one day he will be on the show, hopefully, because me and him got a lot to talk about.
and people will say a lot of negative things about Russo. I don't have any problem. Like I said, I don't like. He and I view wrestling completely different, but as a guy, I've never had a single problem with him.
I don't know the man. I don't know the man. I don't have a single problem with him either. We have a lot to talk about. But with that said, it's somebody I want on the show. But with Vince Russo, if he just understood that wrestling is a sport, and really and truly is portrayed to be a sport, he would have been okay. Right. Just understand that this is portrayed to be a sport, and people have their favorites. And, your favorite is, you're not putting a product on that what you want to watch. You want to put something on that everybody else wants to watch. It's like Carol's Treasures. I sell, this, and this. It's not because I want to sell it. I know because it's what people want. Right. We're definitely running over time. Last question. What's your relationship with Eric Bischoff?
Eric and I, we did this debate, Death of WCW at the first Starcast. I had never met Eric. Didn't know, I knew who he was. He had no clue who I was. He walked past me several times at Starcast before the show. Before we went on stage, he had no clue who I was. I'm not famous. I've written books, but I've done podcasts, whatever. But I don't have a famous face. People don't know who I am. I can walk around kind of anonymously. Before we went on stage, he comes up to me and I say, Eric, very nice to meet you. Actually, this is how I met Eric Bischoff for the first time and introduced myself. We were also doing a WrestleCrap panel at the first Starcast. So we had the Gobbledygooker outfit. We had the Oz robe. We had, I can't even remember what else. Just all this craziness. And, we had Katie Vick, because we owned the Katie Vick outfit, okay? And we had a Katie Vick mannequin. We had her in a casket. And we're like,
just for people who don't know who Katie Vick is, can you explain real fast?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, Katie Vick, WWE did a necrophilia angle in the, 2002, I think. And Katie Vick was a cheerleader who wound up being a mannequin. And so, yeah, she was in a casket in a cheerleader outfit. Okay. We wound up buying the Katie Vick outfit. And we thought, it'd be really funny if we had a WrestleCrap panel. We had a Katie Vick because we own the outfit. We get a mannequin, we get a casket. So we're wheeling that thing around, doing all this stuff. We go in for an autograph signing. And they say, okay, WrestleCrap guys, you're in here. And so we wheel in the Katie Vick outfit. Blade's wearing the Oz robe. I think I was in the Gobbledygooker outfit or something. And I was there. A buddy of ours was wearing the Gobbledygooker outfit, flapping it. He was a turkey, a wrestling turkey. And
I remember Bischoff,
Eric Bischoff watches us walk in, and he's like, who on earth are these? What is this? You can just see him over in the corner because he was signing autographs there too. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go over and talk to him. So I go over to him. I go, Eric Bischoff? And he says, yes. And I said, I'm R.D. Reynolds. And I stick out my hand. He looks up at me. He looks over at the Gobbledygooker and Katie Vick and the Oz robe. And he just goes like this. Jesus Christ. He works his head in his hands. It was like the funniest thing ever. Right before we went on stage for the Death of WCW, he said to me, okay, just so you know, I don't do comedy. So if you're going to go up there and do comedy, just be forewarned, you're on your own. I don't do comedy. I'm not funny. He goes, but I can be a real a-hole. And I said, okay, that's fine. So I went up and did some comedy, and my running thing was, because Brian, my co-author, said, this thing's going to be a clown show. And I said, well, if it's going to be a clown show, I'm going to wear my giant shoes. I'm going to put on a big red nose. I'm going to make it the biggest clown show I possibly can. So the original Death of WCW book has a very awful picture of Eric Bischoff on it. It was the worst picture I could possibly find of the man. It was really dirty pool. I should have never done it. I probably should not have then gone into the Death of WC panel. And you know, you have those stick heads, you know.
I saw it. I saw it on Fight. Yeah, you kind of bombed.
Yeah. That's okay. That's all right. It was funny. I'll tell you the real story about it though afterwards. So we went and I kind of mocked Bischoff and everything else, and we had some, it was kind of fun. And afterwards, he says to me, he goes, I said, he had said some weird things during the show, and I wasn't gonna like call him out, but he had said, oh, you and Meltzer wrote this. You and Meltzer wrote that in your book. And you and Meltzer wrote this in the book. And I just went up to him, and afterwards, I was like, that was really weird you said that, Eric. I said, why did you say me and Meltzer wrote this in the book? And he goes, well, you and Meltzer wrote the book. And I said, no. Dave Meltzer didn't write that book. I said, I wrote that book with Brian Alvarez. And I said, he was like, I don't even remember what he said. I said, Eric, just be honest with me. Just be honest with me. I said, you've never read this book, have you? And he just looks me in the eye and he goes, nope, and I never will. And I started laughing. I was like, so you went and debated me about a book you've never read. And he goes, yeah. And I started laughing. I said, that's really funny. I said, do you care if we get some pictures? He's like, sure. So we shook hands and we're like laughing about the whole thing. So there's pictures of us shaking hands. There's one where we're walking off into the sunset together. There's one where he's flipping me off and I'm looking all angry. Bischoff at the end of the day, I respect Bischoff. I don't think he would ever say in public that he respects me, but my guess is behind the scenes, if he had a gun to his head, he probably would say he did. So
well, I'll say this: we had a lot of shows, and we never went this long. It shows you how two people who are very passionate about one subject can sit here and talk. I'm gonna put you on the spot, something I never did for anybody else. Vince Papala, Jermaine Funnyman Johnson, I never did this. I'll put you on the spot. Will you come back to Carol's Treasure Shop?
Sure, I'd come back. I have no problem with that. All
right, good deal. Because we got a lot more we need to talk about, because there's a lot more than WCW that we left off the table, but we ran out of time. RD, stay on the line. Everybody else, next Sunday. I appreciate you watching. Take care, and God bless.
Here at Carolyn's Treasures, you can design your own belt. I'll be with my favorite team! Roll Tide! We don't like Auburn around here, but if you do, we will make you one of our Auburn Championship belts. Ooh, Dad, this is heavy! Don't forget our championship wings! On anything. Daddy, this is really heavy. Yeah, we're dropping it.